This is Wurps and welcome. We're going to be using many charts, as well as go over each map's individual quirks, maximum indoor and outdoor monster power, and comparing map size and difficulty to its average scrap spawn rates and quality to determine which are the best. Let's get started with Experimentation here. Experimentation is easily the worst map. It's not even contested. You have a fire escape that's easy to access, at least, as well as a pipe you can use to get back. But Experimentation has a lot of cheap large items and cheap small items. Now, the cheap small items are the 0 to 35 range. The average items are the 35 to 60 range. And then valuable is anything above that. So there are not many valuable items on Experimentation. As you can imagine, it's mostly axles, engines, and the like. They are clunky, difficult to bring back, and the small items you do find, which you usually prefer, since you want to actually fill up your inventory instead of just taking one big item out, are bolts and scrap metal. They are very heavy, worth almost nothing. I don't even want to pick those up. Like, I'm not going to this map. It's not good. Here is the spawn rate of scrap. Now, these are all relative. So you can see Experimentation goes from 8 to 12. This ends up being not much. As you can probably imagine, it averages at 10, but even the most you can get out of Experimentation is worse than most other maps, Vow being an exception, but Vow has bees, so it's not going to have a chance against Vow. Now, I think that's pretty much it for Experimentation. I don't go to this map. It's very easy, right? So here's the wiki page. You can see that the max indoor power is only 4. That is pretty significant, as most things are 1 power, save for thumpers, brackens, and spiders, which are 3. Not everything can even spawn on this map. It's mostly spiders, fleas, slimes, and hoarding bugs. And since a spider is 3, 1 will spawn, and then 1 non-spider will spawn, typically. It's possible for other things, but since spiders are the most common, that's what happens. And that's all the monsters. That's all you'll find. The map is also very small. It is a 1 on the map size multiplier. So it's pretty easy. It's the noob map. That's pretty much everything for Experimentation. Now, Assurance. Assurance ain't bad. I'm going to put a D for now. I might move this up to C. We'll see. So we're going to look at the chart here. So it's kind of similar to Experimentation here. I'll just pull this off to the side to compare. As you can tell, the average small item value has really went up. Valuable small item really went up. 4 times the chance for a valuable small item, roughly. Twice the chance for an average value small item. The cheap large items have went down. These things are annoying. Like, you don't want these in a map. Cheap small items, they're not the worst, right? Like, you don't mind a bolt or a thing every now and then. It's not great. But as long as the other things are here, it's fine. Now, Assurance also has a little trick when you're going down in the dropship. If you, like, immediately when the doors of the ship open while it's flying down, if you jump out to the left, you can land on a big rock and get to the fire escape really fast. So that's kind of nice. Now, Assurance's max indoor power is only 6, which isn't very high. Look at these spawn rates of monsters here. Mostly snare fleas, hoarding bugs, and spiders. So you should bring a shovel on this map. Honestly, you have to have a shovel. You can get the snare fleas off your own head, because if one ever drops on you, you'll drop your items, right? But you can just pick it back up. You can just pick the shovel back up and just swing it, and it'll come off. So I really do recommend a shovel on this map. It's really risky without one. The spookier things like thumpers and brackens can spawn, but not a high chance. So this map is also a 1 size in the moons here. So this is also a small map. However, if you look at the scrap rate graph, you'll notice a significant jump from Experimentation. That is a big increase. That's like, what, 14.5 instead of 10? So this map is pretty good as a noob map. I'd say it's even better as a noob map than Experimentation, because it actually has some items, right? Your nighttime power on Assurance has a max of 8, which means some things can spawn. It's more dangerous than you'll expect on Experimentation, but that's fine. Experimentation is just too much of a noob map. I would even consider Assurance the baseline, because it's pretty much the easiest map that's actually worth going to. Now, Assurance also has chances for bees, but due to the daytime spawn deviation, which has a large part in impacting how many enemies will spawn when you land, your chances of actually rolling enemies at all to even have a chance to roll the bee chance is not great. So this is a complicated thing, but this is pretty bad compared to March, is the short version. So you might find bees, but it's not that common. March and Vow are going to be your bee planets. And we'll move on to Vow here. So Vow, let's have a look at this chart. We'll compare it to Assurance as well here. So immediately, as you can see, kind of similar. Like the spread here, this is very, very similar. So really the difference here is the enemies you will encounter, as well as the chance of bees. Now, Vow's chance for bees is better, and the spawn deviation for daytime enemies is better. So the 7 you're seeing here from daytime spawn deviation has a big impact in determining how many enemies spawn on launch, and on that is where you actually get the chance for bees. So the max daytime power is also higher, and daytime spawn deviation is better compared to Assurance. So you're just going to have more bees, and the chances of those enemies initially spawning being bees is better. So Vow is very spiky, potentially, in terms of profits. Even though Vow, the chances here for your loot are definitely worse than Assurance if you only consider indoors. If you get bad luck on Vow, you could get a lot less indoor scrap. So you're kind of banking on the bee chance. However, the bees, yeah, those things can go crazy. Like if you get 3 bees and those things are worth like 100, you've already got an extra 300. You're like soaring above where Assurance would get you. It really just depends on if you want to try to deal with giants or if you want to deal with dogs and sandworms. You're more likely to see giants on Vow, and you're more likely to see dogs and sandworms on Assurance. I'm kind of okay with giants at this point. They're not great to deal with, but if you know you're going to a giant planet, you can always buy a radar booster early on and have your ship guy flash whenever giants are in the area. So you'll be completely safe from giants anyway. So it depends on if you have someone willing to play ship guy in your game, or if you just are willing to deal with giants. I would say Vow is a pretty nice map. It has a very high chance for Brackens, though. As you can see, it's a 26% spawn rate. However, the indoor max power on Vow is 7. So not many mobs can spawn, but your chances of one being a Bracken are quite high. And hoarding bugs and snare fleas are a big part of the rest of the spawn rate. So it can be a shovel map, but you could go without one, because it's not like you can shovel the Bracken anyway under most circumstances, unless you're doing some cheese stuff. Okay, let's move on to offense. Now, I used to like offense, but looking at all these, considering everything I've learned, it's not great. Like, look at that. Compared to these other maps, like let's pull up Assurance and compare this real quick. So, offense compared to Assurance, it's actually worse. Like, look at that. Look, cheap large item, 32%. Offense is just like a factory of axles and engines and bottles. It's terrible to carry back. The chances of average small items are worse compared to Assurance. Cheap small items is pretty much the same. And you can't even get cash registers here, which is this tiny sliver over on Assurance. So offense not looking good. The fire escape is partially accessible because you got to do the ship jump, you got to get a ladder, or you got to do the really complicated rock scaling thing. It's almost not even worth the effort to get to the fire escape on offense. And it's just, this map also, the enemies here, Like the enemies here are pretty spooky. You will have to bring a shovel. You have to. The thumper chance is too high. It's you have to bring a shovel. There's no chance otherwise. Like they will be everywhere. The thumpers will thump around. Max indoor power is 12. 12. So you can deal with up to 4 thumpers at once, just zooming around. Spiders, slimes, fleas. Coil heads is also really stinky inclusion there. Like 12% chance to just hate your life. And yes, you can get a ship guy to seal them in a door, right? That's usually the strat I use. But it kind of takes a lot of coordination, and it takes people that really know what they're doing to be like, okay, I see a coil head. I'm going to start trying to find a dead end pressure door and have the ship guy know to actually seal it. The ship guy will also have to know to start spamming the door in order to get the attention of the guy who's in the place. Helps if you have a walkie-talkie, of course, so they can actually lead them. But yeah, offense, yuck. Oh, I also forgot to put these on there, so I'll just do that now. I'm going to put Vow and Assurance on the same tier. They're pretty similar. Actually, I'm going to move these up because offense is better than Experimentation, but it's worse than Assurance and Vow. And I think that is an important distinction there. I don't like offense. I think this map is actually terrible. It's like secretly awful. So we're going to go to March. Now, March is a nice map. March has a 20 daytime max power, a 7 daytime spawn deviation, the B chance of 35%. In short, you have a pretty decent chance to get a lot of hives. It's very similar to Vow. Vow has the same daytime spawn deviation, just kind of all you need for the B chance. So while the chance is 26.75 compared to 35.29, it is only slightly better. But March as a actual map is significantly better. Let's go over here to this, split these up. Now we'll do a side-by-side of the 2 B planets here. So March has a better valuable small item chance, but a worse average small item chance, weird enough. Also has more cheap large items. It's very similar to offense in that regard of the amount of crap there is, but when you take these into account, it kind of evens out. There's also gold bars here and cash registers and the Bs. Now, a big part of March, see, because if we compare offense to March, it may not look that much better when you just take these graphs into account. But what you also have to take into account is the 4 different exits into that place. Now, March's loot is equal to Assurance, actually. They have the exact same spawn ratio of loot. But something that is different is March has a 2 times map multiplier. So all these other maps are kind of close. Offense is a little bigger. But yeah, March is twice as big. Now, there are 4 entrances, which kind of makes that less of a problem. Because usually the strat on March is you just split up and go into the different fire escapes, right? You like sneak around, see what you can grab, and just immediately walk out and come back. You don't have to like go super ultra deep into a maze and get lost and die. So the massive amount of exits also makes this map really good for the inverse teleporter. If you for some reason are using that on March, kind of weird that, I mean, I probably wouldn't be in that position because I would be spending that money to go to like Rend immediately instead of buying the inverse. So if you find yourself on March somehow with an inverse, there's a lot of exits. So that's nice. As for enemies you can expect on March, kind of the usual spread: Thumper, Bunker, Spiders. Now, Bracken is up there. It's not like crazy high, but you can probably expect a Bracken at some point on March. And the coil head chance is 4 times lower than offense, which is huge. You do have chances of nutcrackers and jesters, though jesters are incredibly rare in March. So I actually have never seen a jester on March. I have almost 400 hours of gameplay. So this is really, really, really rare. It would be great to see a nutcracker, though, to have a free shotgun. But yeah, you're going to be running into giants on the outside most of the time. So if you bring a radar booster, you will be able to protect people with those using the flash function. You cannot die to a giant as long as the terminal guy is flashing the thing. Whenever you get grabbed, you can just walk around with it. It is extremely safe. Chances of baboon hawks is really high. So herds of these will appear, and they will fight eyeless dogs if they encounter one another, because these will make noise and the dogs will attack the noise, and they will actually take out the baboon hawks. The baboon hawks can also kind of trip up forest keepers in some cases and like gather around them in a herd and peck at them, even though they're invincible, which also keeps the giant busy. So kind of interesting fauna interaction here. The earth leviathans are quite rare. I don't see these very often, but you can bait these into eating giants. So I am going to put March squarely in the B tier. Easily the best map out of the free ones. I would probably do the maps like March unless something is wrong with it weather-wise. I might take Foggy at this point because I know how to navigate the map Foggy. Other people don't, so I'd be kind of hesitant. Then I'd probably go Assurance or Vow. They're pretty similar, honestly. This is kind of a pick your own, it doesn't matter kind of thing. They're so close. But some people don't like giants at all. Some people would rather deal with the other stuff. Assurance also has the quick jump fire escape entry point. That's kind of nice. Vow is very simple for bees though, and can be very swingy. Like if you get a lucky run on Vow early, it's pretty nice. Like you can get 3 bees potentially, upwards of 100 each, and you get that with all the scrap, and you can buy some nice stuff. Like you can immediately go to Rend. In one mission, even, you could go to Rend. So it depends on what you want to buy, how much you want to save, what kind of quota you're going for. But yeah, this is a nice little starter map thing. Now I'm gonna put all these and we're gonna check these out here. So this is a comparison of imperfect sizes of the 5 maps that are free. The loot distribution clearly shows Experimentation is terrible, and I never want to go here. The other maps are much closer visually than Experimentation is. Like, that's a lot of red. That's pretty bad. I don't want to go here. And then when you also take in the spawn rates into account, the first 5 only there, you can see the difference. Now, even though offense does have the highest average here, it's not by much, and the map is annoying, so I don't think it's worth overall. Assurance and March are tied for best non-offense scrap distribution. However, March's B chance is much higher, and there are many more entrances into the facility, 4 instead of 2. Pretty easy choice there. So I'm going to have to say March is the winner. Now we are moving on to the big boys. Rend. Look at those colors. That is nice looking. Get March in comparison to that. Rend has some nice differences there. Valuable small items everywhere. Even the average small items, tons more. Your chances of filling up your inventory with valuable things skyrockets on the more expensive 3 planets easily. Cheap large items, they're almost gone on Rend. The valuable large items start coming into account where you're like, I'll carry back this 120 painting. And even though it's annoying, it's quite nice. Now let's have a look at the scrap rates here. So immediately we notice the rates have went way up, like way up. Look at that. That is pretty big compared to the previous ones. There's just a lot more stuff here. Now, while Rend, you look at Rend and you look at Titan and you're like, damn, that's a big difference. But what ends up happening in reality is you only have enough time to bring back so much stuff. And the quality on Rend is pretty nice as well. So you can usually expect those things you bring back to have some good value. Now, Rend is a mansion map, and that is pretty unfortunate sometimes. However, I'm pretty sure mansion maps spawn in such a way that you can actually use the, like, keep your left hand on the wall strat when traversing it to actually clear it out, because the facility maps can spawn in segments that are like isolated from the other walls. And I don't know if that's the case for mansions. So you might be able to use that strat to easily traverse them. I'm not sure. Let me know if you use that strat, and we'll see if other people should be alerted to that. I might make a video on that. So let's look at Rend on the moons list. Now, something you will notice here, the map size multiplier for Rend and Dine look kind of small, especially compared to Titan. But I think it's because they're just mansions. And I don't know how big of a difference this actually is in practice. It doesn't seem like these maps are actually very small. So this might just be a mansion thing, and I don't think you have to worry too much about it. Rend can only get stormy and eclipse. It can't get flooded. So both of these, I mean, eclipse is kind of sussy sometimes, but if you want to do the fire escape, eclipse is pretty all right. Stormy, it's workable. You just got to use the lightning rod strat with some keys or some like cheap metallic items you got. But Rend is pretty nice lately. We do have to take into account the monster spawn rates of nutcrackers, which I think I might consider this a positive. Nutcrackers are very dangerous, right? But they have scrap on them, so scrap can spawn in via nutcrackers, and shotguns are decently valuable. Like, they're from average to valuable in terms of scrap, and they're obviously usable, because if you get one shotgun from a nutcracker, you can use that to just chain kill them and keep taking their shotguns, and you can use those against everything else. You can blast a bracken even, which are usually pretty hard to kill. You can blast most things. Now, jesters will spawn. That's just kind of a thing. Jesters and coil heads will make this map really annoying to play. So you got to get in there real quick. You got to take stuff out. Rend's fire escape is pretty good. I like Rend's fire escape. This is kind of one of those things where you have to know the map. But as shown in my moons guide, where I show the routes to the maps, if you walk out of the like door of the ship and you go to the left railing where it forms a corner, and you just go like forward left off of that, like you just go directly where the railings meet and go in that direction, you'll go up a hill. And at the top of that hill, you can gently shimmy down the mountain by walking at like a slight angle, and you'll be right at the fire escape. It's incredibly fast. It rivals the Dine fire escape. People think Dine is good because the fire escape is close. Rend's is actually very similar to that speed of entry, and the return trip is not that bad. It's also very safe. Enemies usually don't spawn out there. You might have to deal with a giant on the hill occasionally, but it's uncommon. So most of the enemies, like Dine or Rend, will appear on the path to the main, so you will have to watch out for that. But if you use the fire escape path, you can avoid them, much like Dine. So we're going to put Rend in the top tier. Rend, I did a big quota run recently where we focused on Rend, and it was really nice. Rend, you can also utilize jetpacks for even better looting, because it helps both ways by a lot. Because while going to the fire escape on Rend is quite fast, going away from it does take a little longer. You can make it extremely fast with a jetpack, because you can just fly straight up the mountain and you're at the ship. And the main isn't that far away either. You just kind of have to get used to it, do it a few times, and you'll be able to use the jetpack to effectively move the large amount of valuable small items to the ship. Now, let's look at the max monster power you can have in here. It is 10, which is actually not that bad when you consider Titan has 18. So yeah, Dine has 15. So when you consider max monster power, only 10. So if you look at what can spawn, if you get like a jester somewhere, which you might, unfortunately, it's only 15%, but yeah, you might. If you get a bracken in there, that's -3. If you get a spider, that's another -3. Then say you have both of these, there's only 4 left. So then you have a chance for some of these to spawn. A Ghost Girl's 2, that can take up some slots. I actually like being haunted by the Ghost Girl because it just eats up monster power, and then I'll just sit on the terminal in my safe spot and she can't kill me. So then, yeah, only 10. That's pretty nice. Pretty nice. You get some coil heads, you're going to suffer, but the chances aren't that high. The max nighttime power is also only 6 on Rend, which isn't really that bad. So giants are 3, dogs are 2, earth leviathans are 2. You won't run into much leviathans, but it's a pretty good mix of dogs and giants. They might not necessarily always be by the ship, and there won't be that many. Like, there just aren't that many on Rend. So if you don't want to deal with that much stuff, it's almost safe-ish. Like, look at Titan. The max nighttime power is 7. Indoor is 18. That 7's going to usually mean +1 monster due to the way the monster power works. So we're going to do Dine. So Dine. Some people like this map. I don't. I might put this on A- tier if there was one, but I don't have one, so I'm going to put it in A. And I think this is a decent rating. This map isn't bad, right? Like, we'll compare Rend to Dine here. So pretty similar, really not very different, and that's okay because these maps have kind of a similar loot profile. As you can see here, really not much more on Dine can spawn. Slightly more, slightly, like a bit higher on average. Now, the biggest problem with Dine is turret hell, and that sucks because it's also a mansion, and it's not like the enemies don't spawn, right? So you're dealing with turret hell and enemies, and Dine's highest spawn is the Jester, and that's not great. It's not great at all. Coil heads are pretty similar to Rend, but yeah, so you're going to be, it's pretty even. Nutcrackers don't have a highest spawn rate, but they do still have a decent spawn rate. So you won't be farming shotguns really, which you can do on Rend. Like Rend, you're just like, oh yeah, another Nutcracker, time for another shotgun. But on here, it's just like, they might spawn. The fire exit is very easy to access on this map, and you can get up there without a ladder if you use the simple trick, and with the jumping up the little ledge. So this map is okay. The main is kind of bad when it's flooded, which it can be. This can be flooded and eclipsed only. It can't be stormy, interestingly enough. Stormy is kind of like, it's kind of a double-edged sword because it's a little annoying, but you can also use it to take out like a lot of enemies. If masks follow you outside, for example, it's very easy to take them out with Stormy, which is something I do on Rend because Stormy is not that uncommon. But with Dine, that doesn't happen, so you're not going to get free takeouts on eyeless dogs or mask like you can on Stormy Rend. Dine flooded is super annoying. The main is not fun to traverse. If you have a jetpack, you can kind of like get around this, but it's not that fun. So Dine is kind of similar to Rend in terms of spawns, except the worms have a better chance than the giants. The giants are kind of uncommon, not super uncommon though. 17% is still fairly likely to spawn. There's landmines and turrets everywhere in this map. It is not great. You need a terminal operator. You have to have one. If you don't, you're crazy. Like, you just have to have one. So that is why Dine is only an A. Honestly, I think it deserves even less of a spot, but it's definitely better than March, so I can't put it on the same tier as March, right? And now for Titan. Ooh, Titan. Titan got nerfed in the latest patch with the mast because Titan used to not have turrets, which was huge. Now it can have a lot of turrets, which is bad. And Titan can also have a lot of indoor power and has a kind of normal amount of nighttime power. You can expect dogs and giants, mostly dogs, which means you can take them out using the ship door cheese with the shovel. Like, you just close the ship door and just smack it with a shovel and the dogs will come to it, and you just take them out for free. That is something you can do. However, by doing that, you're freeing up the monster power, allowing you to spawn more giants. So that's questionable because giants on Titan are hellish. They are awful. If a giant spawns there, it is really annoying, especially if it spawns on the top shelf next to the doors. It can't even get down, so it's just going to annoy you forever. Leviathans are really rare in this map. The spawn rate of enemies is kind of similar to Dine, really. It's kind of just a mixed bag of everything. Jesters being the highest, Nutcrackers being up there. Yeah, it's not that different though. Now, something that is a big factor is Titan is a facility map. Now, facility map means you can actually deal with Jesters and Coilheads if you have a cracked terminal guy who can shut them behind the pressurized doors. If you do that, you won't have to deal with the Jester anymore. But even though this sounds easy when I say it, it's kind of not. And you have to have a very coordinated team to do so, especially with the Jester, since you don't have that long to actually bring him there. You kind of have to keep track of where those spots are the entire time. But it's possible, which is not the same as mansion maps, where it is impossible. And a Jester and a Coilhead will just bother you forever on that map. So we'll have a look at the actual loot of this map here. So Titan, unsurprisingly, has a lot of valuable stuff. Now, weird enough, Titan has a really high chance to spawn some cheap crap. Let's compare this to Rend. So the cheap small items on Titan, you can see it's a bigger chunk. And it's mostly because bolts are the highest spawn rate thing on that map besides gifts. Gifts are also incorporated into these charts, by the way. They are considered valuable on the top 3 maps and average on the others due to them being effectively the average scrap value of the entire map, including two-handers. So that's where those land. Now, there are also more cheap large items on Titan. I don't know why this map, they just have more garbage on this map, but they also have a lot more actual scrap. Now, that is a big range. Like, that is a big scrap range compared to this. Like, this is relative, so just have a look at that. You can get crazy amounts of stuff, but due to the difference in quality, it's kind of hard to bring some of it back. Like, if you're on Titan, you're farming Titan, and you see a small bolt, do you want that? I don't. I wouldn't even pick that crap up. Like an axle, I don't want to bring that back. Like, I'd rather have, valuable small items, even average. Like, I'd rather take a fish than an axle, Like, I just don't want to bring that stuff back. So really, how much of that extra stuff is crap on Titan? That's a good question, because the average loot quality on Rend is actually higher. So while there will be less overall, what you'll run into will be more valuable. So that's something to keep in mind. Titan can spawn a significantly higher average amount of stuff, but it can also spawn a lot of garbage. So we'll have to keep that in mind. I'm going to put Titan pretty much solely because of how much scrap it can spawn and the importance of that in hitting potentially high quotas. I'm going to put it in S tier. I might put it slightly below Rend in actuality, but since I'm just going to deal with S to F, we're going to put it on S. It's not a bad map, but it got a lot worse in the recent update. There are a lot of tricks you can use on Titan as well to loot it faster, such as the ladder strat, where you, like, when walking out the main door to the outside of the map, the left wall there, you can put a ladder angled like 30 degrees to the left on the edge, and you can drop loot off of the edge of that ladder, and that will enable you to mass pile stuff down there. It lands pretty much right next to the ship, so you can mass loot that map pretty easily. You don't even need a jetpack like you would with Rend, but if you do have a jetpack on Rend, that's pretty nice too. So Titan, yeah, it's a nice map. I don't prefer it, mostly due to the turrets as of late. The turrets make it a lot worse. That's kind of why I'm preferring Rend most of the time. And the indoor power of Titan is significantly higher than these other maps, like 10 to 18. 18, that is a lot. Like, crap will just keep spawning. You might be able to even cap out on Rend without having to deal with too much more stuff. Funny enough, the chances of Titan flipping to a mansion is actually 5%, which is a lot higher than the other maps that have a 0.016 chance for Rend to be a facility. The others, Marsh actually can't be a mansion, which is interesting. Yeah, these chances to flip the map, very, very small. 0.003 on Experimentation. I've definitely never seen an Experimentation mansion. So yeah, we're kind of dealing with the Rend meta right now. Titan is a good alternative because Titan also has very easy weather. Titan can be stormy, foggy, or eclipsed. Eclipsed obviously being the worst, foggy being irrelevant because it's already a little foggy and the stairs are directly outside the ship. It's almost impossible to get lost. So the foggy is free weather, and stormy isn't that bad, especially when you use the lightning rod strat, because the lightning is attracted to the first metal object it sees, or just kind of, I'm not sure if it's random or the closest. It's kind of hard to test, but due to lightning striking in a specific radius, you can control where it's possible for random lightning to strike, and you can put some keys off to the side, or like a shovel or something, or some other metal scrap, to make yourself safe from the lightning and to take the dogs down without you having to fight them or use the door cheese on them. You can automatically take out masked and dogs if you do it right by just taking a sparking item, like backing up and dropping it. You can use lightning to your advantage as a weapon. So stormy isn't that bad in the long run. I like Titan, but I like Rend more. So I think this is a good overall tier list here. I like Rend the most. I will go to Titan sometimes just to mix it up, but I am happy going to Rend. This used to be flipped before the update. I used to prefer Titan and I would go to Rend, but I liked Rend a lot less. But looking at all this info here on the scrap quality especially, I think Rend is a lot better than it seems right now. Thanks for watching. Here's some more videos you may enjoy. I have my Twitch link in the description. See you next time.